forgot to record this until now. So I see my guest is coming on right now, Damian Vaughn, who you're going to really like. He's so wise. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I'm all over the place. He's also starting a PhD program, I think any day now. So that is really exciting. So we'll have, I can hear JD, but I can't hear Damian. So bear with us tonight, and we'll just see what we can do. Does anyone have any questions? If you want to chat with us, and you can chat directly with Damian, and he'd be delighted to answer any questions or hear anything you're passionate about, because he is really making a living at really helping athletes really make it outside off of the field too. And he uses the field as a metaphor for life, and he really is passionate about really letting young children, really introducing them to adversity. And for example, if they're not able to, if their coach isn't putting them in, instead of for the parents to just like jump down the coach's throat, what lessons are there for that child? You know, maybe this is something that could really help shape them into build a tremendous character at a really young age, and develop some work ethic. That's one point that Damian always talks about. And he always talks about, as well as our, you know, we are so caught up in putting all our identity into one role, i.e. like an athlete, to, you know, a young kid that's on a Pop Warner or perhaps in high school. They have all their identity caught up in that. And then what happens if something goes awry? What if they get hurt? Then where is their identity? So that's a really good thing for parents to really get to let kids add more balance to their life, help them excel in the academics, which is so important, and that will really, really make a difference. Because a lot of us, I know at one point in my life, I had my first business and I didn't want to do it anymore, and I had my first client that hated my guts, and I was doing PR and events, and I felt so deflated. And I felt like an empty shell. And why was that? Because I had all my identity caught up as being a business owner, and it was such a wake-up call, and I'm so grateful for that experience. And that's some of the things I coach my clients about, is you have so many roles. That's all they are. You're much more than your roles. So what do you think? Has anyone else experienced that, where they've been disappointed with losing a job? You have all your identity caught up in the job, and then you lose your job, and then who are you? That's a horrible feeling. So we, would love to hear you ask some questions about that, or share your opinion. That would be really, really great. And I just want to send my blessings out to everyone that experienced that earthquake on the East Coast today. I guess it went up and down the East Coast. I don't know. I've heard that there haven't been a lot of horrible, injuries or anything. I heard they're minor. I hope that's still true. So I send my blessings out to all of you that have been affected by that. So do we have any chatters in the room? We have 573 of you. So what would you like to talk about while we're waiting for Damian? I guess we're having a little technical snafu. Let me go, until I hear from you, then what is up with the earthquakes on the East Coast? Who knows about that? We should talk about current events as well. Does anyone know? Okay, so I'm just reading a note from the producer. And Denver had one too, I just heard. Oh my. Oh, I hope everyone's okay. And so why don't we just all just come together and just offer up this time we have together for these people that are being affected. We all have to come together on this. And I'm really sorry to hear that that's happening in Denver too. So we have the football season upon us. We're in, halfway through the preseason, and speaking of tragedies, the NFL has started kicking off right on September 11th, and I understand they're going to do a lot of honoring of the people that were affected by that, which is wonderful. It's hard to believe that was 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So someone asked me to tell me about the book. Well, Insightful Player is a book on 32 inspiring stories of NFL players. And you're going to learn more about who they are as human beings. It's more about how, what their beliefs are, what kind of obstacles they overcame and what they learned from that. Like, for example, Rashid Davis he was from the Chicago Bears, and now he's playing with Detroit. And by God, I'm getting great reports. He's doing really well, and Detroit is so happy to have him. He's a wide receiver, and he's also on special teams. Now, he had a horrific background. His father was murdered when he was just 8 years old, and there were bullets flying out in the neighborhood, and he had to duck for cover in his own house. I cannot imagine that. And I think, there are children in the world that live like that, and I know that I am oblivious to that when I was growing up. Are you? And so I really think it's time for all of us to start putting our antennas up and really taking a look at what's going on in the world and how can we contribute. And Rashid really had a tough time. Gang members were his idols growing up. And, a lot of those gang members had a lot of really flashy clothes and cars and jewelry. And that's very tempting for a young kid. But he found his way through. And believe it or not, another interesting thing about him is he never played football, organized football, till he was in college, and at a junior college, no less. And here he is in the pros. So that's Rashid Davis. Damien will tell his story tonight. Now, Roger Staubach was my very first player, and he has quite a story. And he really, really worked hard, wanted to get a scholarship just to help his parents out. And so he really, really excelled. And as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, he's the one that after an interview, he threw a pass at the end of a game and won. And a reporter came up to him and said, "How did you do that and make that connection with that receiver? And, what were you thinking?" He said, "Well, right before I threw the pass, I said a Hail Mary." And that's how the Hail Mary pass was born. My goodness. We have the McCourty brothers. They're very young. We have Devin McCourty, who plays for the New England Patriots, and his twin brother. They look just alike. In fact, Jason plays for the Titans, and when I was doing the book, I got their pictures mixed up because I couldn't tell who is who. But their sports marketing agent set me straight. But they grew up without a dad. Their dad died when they were very young. They had this awesome mother who just really, 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 really worked hard and got them involved with sports, and they ended up getting scholarships and going to Rutgers. And I'll have to say, when I met them about a year ago, they're only 22. I think they're 23 or 24 now. And I was amazed as how mature they are. Their mother did an amazing job, and they treat everyone with respect, even if they don't care for them. It's amazing. So they are just pretty incredible. So Damien is going to be here shortly. Excuse me, I'm so thirsty. And so those are the McCourty boys. Now, we met Daniel Wilcox. He was here last week, and he's amazing. And he had a really tough beginning, and he was surrounded by drugs and gangs all around him as well. Single parent home, similar thing. And, because of his love for sports, because he really excelled at it, the gang members ended up pushing him away because they respected that and believed that Damien would really make it out of that neighborhood, even though they didn't believe in themselves. I want to reach some of those other kids that don't believe in themselves. So Daniel was really, really blessed. And he also had a tough time learning to care for and appreciate police, because when he was little, because of the way he was dressed, because of the neighborhood he lived in Atlanta, the police, held a gun to him a couple of times. And that's really scary for a young child. But now as an adult and a former retired player from the NFL, he has enormous respect for police, and he worked all that out. And that's the whole point of all the players that are on the Insightful Player team. They work things out. They don't have a chip on their shoulders. And that was a pretty big thing to work out after what he went through. We have Billy Miller. Now, Billy Miller is someone that, again, growing up in the inner city in LA, that was not easy for him. And he even saw dead bodies on the street when he was not even a teenager yet. And, he really had a tough time. And like Rashid, he was bussed out to a different school, and that really saved him. And another family took him under his wing. And and you know, he was a party boy for a while, and he really settled down, and what really helped him is he really got, you know, found Christ, and his Christianity has really put him on the straight path, and I can't wait for you to meet him. He'll be on the show. He's so funny. This guy should be on stage. I enjoy him so much, and he's really so wise. And I think we now have our Damien. Damien, can you hear me? I can see Damien. I bet you can too. I have his volume all the way up. I hear interference. He looks like that guy that was on Wings. Do you guys remember that TV show Wings? And also he played a part on The Sopranos. I can't think of his name, but he looks like that actor. And Damien, can you hear me yet? Wow, isn't this interesting, these technical difficulties. So one of the things we model in Insightful Player is obstacles. So this is an obstacle I'm facing right now. So please throw me some questions. Throw me a bone, as they say. And we can talk more. We can, like, let's have some dialogue, you know, stimulating dialogue. And I keep saying this keeps falling out every week, and I don't do anything about it. That's wrong. I need to do something about this. I have no idea what is up with this. Now, I also want to say, who else should I talk to you about? Steve Grogan from the Patriots. Now, he's someone that is very funny. He's a retired player, and when he goes out to speak with kids, sometimes I don't know who he is. And so he says, I used to be Tom Brady, and then they get it. And that really works. But when he was playing, he was a quarterback for the Patriots. He's in the Patriots Hall of Fame. He got benched. You know, other players came on board and put him on the bench. And he didn't get a chip on his shoulder. He supported that other quarterback, and he was a real leader. And again, he is, all his teammates will just speak so highly of Steve Grogan. He is incredible. So we'll have him on too, and he's really a great guy. And we also have Andre Tippett. He's a Hall of Famer, and Steve Nelson from the Patriots. Steve Nelson is amazing. He was been playing, he played in the NFL for a long time. And Tim Daly, someone told me his name. His name is Tim Daly. I think Damien reminds me of Tim Daly. Absolutely. You saw him a brief moment ago, but he's MIA right now. So, let me see. What other player? There's so many of my players that... Reggie Kelly, you've met him. He was always trying to be the top dog in school and trying to be Mr. Popular all the time, but it just wore him out. He just got sick of it. And he felt empty inside, even though he got all these accolades, he did well in school, he was a big man on the campus, in high school and in college. What do you mean by the chip on the arm? What I mean is a chip on a shoulder. Like when something bad happens to us, sometimes we can get sour, and that can make us really negative and narrow our perspective. So that's what I mean by chip on the shoulder. So that is something a lot of people do have, you know, and I think if we all could look at adversity and look at the gifts it's holding behind its back. We have a person crashing our show right now. Okay, I thought the police put the chip from tracking him. No, it was just a situation. It was just a series of events that really frustrated him, and so you would think that he would be, quote unquote, prejudiced against the police, but he wasn't. He worked on it, and he has enormous respect for police and anyone in authority. Daniel Wilcox is one of the greatest players I've ever met. He's awesome. He is a really good man. He's a wonderful role model, and he's a great family man, and he really cares about helping you. Damien, can you hear me? I think I have to put his volume up again. Hold on. Damien? Tim Oh, I was just telling them how you look like Tim Daly. Do you know who that? We finally did it, huh, Damien? Yeah, do you know who he is? He was on a show, Wings. He was on played a part in Los Sopranos. Anyway, it is a compliment. He's a nice looking man. So I introduced you already, and excuse me, I have a horrible tickle in my throat. So I want to welcome you on board. It's so great to have you here. Can you hear me okay, Damien? You think we can swing it, right? We can punt, right? Well, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many things we could talk about with you. I mean, your resume is like almost unbelievable that you've done so many things. I mean, you're a musician. You've written a book. You're starting a PhD program. I mean, you played in the NFL. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I mean, how do you do all that, Damien? Yeah, I can. Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really good point, is, about having mentors. A lot of people think they can have to do it on their own, and I'm a coach like you're a coach, and I have a coach. And I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have the mentors as well. Can we talk a little bit about that? Yeah, it makes a big difference. And even outside of sports, we need to get our mentors as well. Absolutely. That's a really good point, and I think that's a really good approach to do, because and I think that's true. I think it's mentors are, they have something that we want to model and we want to learn from. And in the coaching industry, I've noticed that a lot of people hire coaches not for what they know, but for who they are. What their character is, what their perspective is like. And it's more about underneath who they are versus what they do, which is another passion of yours. You talk about all the roles we play and the mask we wear and the over-identification that we have with certain roles, like if we're an athlete. Can you talk a little bit about that? Right. That's my phone. You can ignore that. Did I lose you? Okay, good. And so, keep going because I have a question, but keep. Right, that's so true. I concur. And before you arrived, I was telling them how I experienced that in my life, and it was actually a wonderful turning point, to really stop identifying with my work, solely. And so back when you were playing, you pushed yourself really, really hard. You were very competitive, and I think it would be fun for you to tell them the story, because I think it might relate here to how you didn't pay attention to your body and how that impacted your life in the NFL from the, career-ending injuries and what you learned from that. Because I think that's a very inspiring story, Damien. Oh, double it. Wow. Well, that's great. You know, you take an experience from your life, which was pretty significant, my goodness, and you're out there really contributing to athletes and offering them a wider, much wider perspective so they don't have to travel down the road that you did. And so back then, though, what did you do to lift yourself up? You know, it was the end. The Achilles tendon. I mean, that's pretty significant. How did you lift yourself up from that to move on in your life? What was your approach? Because you must have been really disappointed. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's pretty incredible. So what are some of the things that you learned about yourself back then? What are some of the things that you learned about when you finally gave in to acceptance and went back to your practices of meditation and monitoring your inner world? Right. 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 Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So that whole, and that's the work you're doing in your life now, working with these athletes at the Vaughn Center, and the whole piece on purpose and teaching athletes how to connect to a bigger purpose. Do you have any stories that you could share about that? You're right. Yeah, it sounds like it's pouring rain. That's what I'm hearing. Let's talk about purpose, because I mean, you went deeper. Instead of setting goals, you started like working on to a place where, why am I here? What are my greatest gifts? And I think a lot of people aren't exposed to that kind of thinking, and it's so rewarding. And I'd love for you to share some of the ways you teach this to people that have never been exposed to this before. Yeah. That's so true. And another point about that is that because something is so natural to someone, sometimes they're like, oh, so big, oh, big deal. I'm really compassionate, or, I'm a great leader, big deal. Because they're so used to it. It's just who they are. Can you hear me, Damien? Okay. Another point about that, the things that come most natural to us, things that like, okay, maybe if I talk in slow motion. What do you think of that? I think that I forget how to send him a message. All right, I'm gonna message you. Hopefully this will work. Oh, you can? Okay, good. So that whole point about purpose is, a lot of people, when they look at what they're good at naturally, what they enjoy a lot, is they don't realize how valuable that is. They poo-poo it and say, so what? I'm a great leader. So what? I'm a great musician, or a great actor, or whatever it may be, a great teacher. Big deal. Right. and I think you blow your mind. Right, and I concur, and I think that's the greatest way that we can experience the most fulfillment, when we're contributing to others, and when we're on purpose. It's so much bigger than ourselves, and it actually becomes easier, and I think we feel less self-conscious. That's been my experience with working with a lot of clients, as well as in my own life. Does that make sense to you? So how can we get this to young children? I mean, that's another thing that I was really struck by when my first conversations with you is getting these conversations to happen with our kids, because when we're really young, we pretty much know what our strengths are, and we get it. It's just there. And then society beats us down, and it becomes less and less clear, and becomes more and more of a struggle to get back. I think he broke up again. And Damien, can you hear me? He was talking about flow when we were in you broke up. Can you hear me, Damien? So Damien was talking about flow. And when we're in that state, when when we're playing sports, we're in a play mode. Why are we doing this? We're playing, and that we're very intelligent and we're very creative, and it's so true. Lightness really, really opens internal doors to wisdom that does not get accessed as easily. It's incredible. If you're having a bad day, for example, and you take yourself out to a real funny movie, and you come back and you start thinking about what you were troubled by, chances are good you're going to have some solutions and you're going to feel a heck of a lot better. We just lost Damien. That whole play and lightness is so important. It opens internal doors to wisdom. It's like the express route. When you're traveling during rush hour, if you're two or more, you get to go on the quick express route. That's what it's like. You get to go on that express route, and you travel with that lightness. It just opens our perspective so much. So, we'll have Damien on again. We'll have to figure out, what's going on his computer to get him back, because he really, really is a very wise man, and I think you'd really, really gain a lot from him. He's a really, really good guy too, but he has a lot of really good points. And he had to overcome a lot when we didn't get into it as deeply as I'd like because of the technical snafus. But he really was a real wake up for him when he had that final injury. And who the heck am I? This might be him coming back. And it is Tim Daly. I have to put his volume back. Tim Daly! I was just kind of recapping That's all right. We'll have to get this figured out and have you back again. Because of this. Go ahead. Right. Yeah. Technical stuff is great when it works, but when it doesn't, my goodness, right? We get so dependent on it, so that makes it tougher. So we'll have to figure this out on your end, because and we'll have you back so we can have a really good flowing conversation. Is there anything that you would like to leave everybody with? Beautifully said, Damien, beautifully said. You're doing a lot of beautiful work out in the world, and I'm so happy we have you at the Vaughn Center. If anyone wants to learn more about Damien, visit VaughnCenter.com. We have it right here on the screen where you can see it, and he has some wonderful programs, and his book will be out. He's shopping around, and I'm sure he'll get picked up quickly. So we'll have you back. Yeah, that's great. And in the meantime, he's in my book, and he has a great story that he'll share with you, and and that will be out in just a few weeks. And so come back, and good luck with your PhD program, starting probably any day now, right? Oh my. Okay, good. All right. Well, you'll have to find time to squeeze us in. Yeah. All right, Damien. Thank you so much. You have a great rest of your day. Okay. And oh, it was great to have you. Oh, so well, it's just what is, right? Makes it more interesting, right? It's not boring. All right, and everyone, thank you for tuning in. And there's a lot of lessons that we can all learn from Damien Vaughn. He's a really good guy, and don't over-identify with your roles. You look at the challenges as tremendous opportunities for growth. Look at internal, what's going on inside, intrinsic versus extrinsic rewards that are so sustainable when it's intrinsic. He has so many lessons for us to learn, and you'll learn more about it go to VaughnCenter.com, and you will learn more about it. So I wish you all a wonderful evening, and I will see you next Tuesday with Chris Draft, who has been, he's like the Mother Teresa of the NFL. He's amazing. You wait till you hear all the things he's up to. And Damien, thank you again. You're the best, and we'll keep in close touch. Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.